In the last video, I talked about the number type, as well as how different numbers work together for addition, multiplication, and so on. And in this video, I'm going to be talking all about the string type, which is probably the most common type you're going to be using in programming because text is everywhere. So to get started with creating a string, let's just create a variable a, and we're going to set it equal to a string. And in order to create a string, all you need to do is use the quotes. In our example, we're going to use double quotes here. So as you can see, we have the double quote at the beginning, and we have a double quote at the end, and everything you type between here is going to be your string. And if you're using a text editor such as Visual Studio Code, when you write out the first set of quotes, it'll add the ending quote in for you. This is just a nice feature because it makes programming easier because it's going to have that extra double quote for you. And if you're typing and you hit double quote again, even though the quote's already there, it's not going to re-add it, it's just going to move your cursor afterwards. So it's just a really handy feature for making strings. And like I said, now that we have these double quotes, everything we type between them will be a string. For example, we can type in hello world. And now this is a string of text, and we can print this out to the screen. We can say console.log a, and if I save, you can see hello world is printed to the side of the screen. And I just have this running with live server, just like we did in the last video. This is just a continuation, same thing open up onto the side. We can change our string, for example, hello world a, and now it says hello world a at the string. And a nice thing about JavaScript is these strings can be as long or short as we want. We could have it be one character, and it's just going to be h. We can even have it be an empty string, and as you can see, it now prints out nothing, just an empty string to the screen. We could have it be huge, a really long string, and it'll print it out no matter how large the string is. Another really interesting thing about strings in JavaScript is you can actually write strings using single quotes like this instead of double quotes. Either one is going to work. You'll notice though, when I save this, it's going to convert these over to double quotes, and that's because when we set up prettier, it actually has a setting to say if you want double quotes or single quotes. So if we go into our settings and type in prettier quote, quote, there we go, you can see it says single quote down here. If true, we'll use single quotes instead of double quotes. So we could toggle this on or off depending on your preferences. I recommend just leaving it as is, and every time you write a string, it'll convert it to double quotes. But just know that if you need to, you can use single quotes instead, which is really useful if you have a string that contains quotes inside of it. For example, John says hi. Now it's really nice to have these double quotes inside of here, and when we save, you can see it prints out those double quotes. Because if I tried to put double quotes inside of a string with double quotes, you're going to notice I'm going to get an error. An uncaught syntax error, and that's because what happens is this first set of double quotes here is a string, then we have this random text hi, which doesn't mean anything in JavaScript, and then these other set of quotes, which is like an empty string. So if you want to use double quotes, you either need to use single quotes on the outside, like this, where here we have this string with single quotes and then the double quotes inside of it, or you can use double quotes on the outside, but if you put a slash here at the beginning of your double quote, it'll essentially make it as if that quote is not there. It escapes this, so JavaScript doesn't read it, and instead it just prints out your double quote in your string. And if you save, we get the exact same output over here. But you'll notice Prettier automatically converted this to using single quotes with double quotes inside with no escaping, just because that's better syntax, easier to read, and easier to work with. So I recommend just playing around with this, using single quotes or double quotes, whichever you prefer. Both of them are going to work. Now, just like when we did numbers, we can use this type of function here, this keyword, and pass in our variable here. And if we save, you see it's going to give us a type of string because this is a string. And a string is essentially technical terminology for saying that this is a string of characters. And a string of characters is essentially text. So that's why they call this a string. You can call it text, whatever you want. Just know that underlying, this is called a string inside of JavaScript. And we can actually combine together multiple strings. So let's just have a string here that says hello. And we're also going to have a variable b, which is going to be equal to world. And we want to print out hello world. So down here, we can say, for example, a plus b. This is going to combine our two strings together. And if we save, we get hello world. Right now, there's no space between hello and world. So we could fix this by putting a space in front of world. That'll work. We could put a space after hello, and that would work. Or we can concatenate another string onto here, which we just have as an empty space. So we have a plus a space plus b, and if we save, we get hello space world. So now it's your turn to play around with strings. I want you to create a variable called name and set it equal to your own personal first name. Just whatever it is, just write down your name as that variable value. Then I want you to log out to the screen the text, hello, my name is, and then use that variable to put your own name into that text. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that now. Just pause the video and come back when you're done. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to implement that. So like I said, we're going to create a variable here. It's going to be called name, and we're going to set it equal to our name. In my case, my name is Kyle, so I'll just set this to be Kyle. Then down here in our log, we want to say hello, my name is. So we're going to put in quotes, hello, my name is. And then we want to add our string Kyle here, our name, at the end of this. So we're going to put a space because we want to have a space between this string and our next text, which is Kyle, the plus, and then our variable, which is called name. And if I save, you can see it prints out, hello, my name is Kyle. And it's really important to make sure you have that space in there. Otherwise, you're going to not have the space between your name and is. So that space is really important. And it's also important to make sure you have this plus here to actually combine these together. Because if you just put name inside of the string here without this plus, it's just going to print out the actual text name as opposed to using your variable value for name. So again, it's important to make sure that you have this in the plus afterwards. And this right here is pretty much everything you need to know about strings. They're fairly straightforward. You just put text in between sets of double quotes, and that's it. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the Boolean, which is another fairly simple type to understand, and I can't wait to see you in that video.